A guy walks into my shop.
2022 Accord 1.5 turbo, about 43,000 miles on it. He's convinced his engine is running rough because he switched from premium back to regular fuel. He'd been running 93 octane for the previous 20,000 miles, paying an extra $8 to $10 every fill-up because someone told him Honda engines open up on premium. They don't. But his rough idle turned out to be a partially clogged direct injector, caused by cheap gas station fuel with no top-tier detergent additives. The premium octane had nothing to do with it. He'd wasted north of $200 in extra fuel costs chasing a myth, while the real problem built quietly in his fuel system. Welcome back to Honda Decoded. I'm Mike. 25 years turning wrenches, the last 15 of them almost exclusively on Hondas and Acuras. And I'll tell you right now, the amount of money Honda owners burn every month on fuel myths, bad habits at the pump, flat-out wrong information is genuinely painful to watch. Today, we're breaking down 8 of the most damaging fuel myths for Honda owners specifically. Stay to the end, because myth number 1 is the one I see drain the most cash from the most people, week after week.
Myth 8. All gas stations sell the same quality fuel.
Gas is gas, right up until your injectors start clogging. While raw gasoline comes from shared regional refineries, the additive packages blended in at the distribution rack make a massive difference in long-term engine health. Honda explicitly recommends top-tier detergent gasoline in all their vehicles, from the Fit and HR-V to the Ridgeline. Discount stations often blend only the bare minimum EPA detergent level required by law, and over time that leads to heavy carbon deposits on fuel injectors and intake ports. This matters most on modern Honda Earth Dreams engines equipped with direct injection, specifically the turbocharged 1.5-liter L15B7 found in the 2017 and later CR-V, Civic, and Accord. In a direct injection engine, fuel no longer passes over the intake valves on its way into the cylinder the way port injection does. There's no fuel wash keeping those valves clean. Without top-tier detergents keeping the high-pressure injectors themselves clean, you get hesitation, rough idling, and a 4 to 5% fuel economy drop that builds slowly enough that most owners never connect it to the fuel they've been buying. Paying a few extra cents per gallon for top-tier fuel is infinitely cheaper than the $800 to $1,200 a technician charges to service gummed-up direct injectors. Independent testing by AAA found that engines running non-top-tier fuel developed 19 times more carbon deposit after just 4,000 miles. 19 times. Use top-tier fuel. If you're learning something today, hit subscribe. Honda Decoded covers exactly this kind of real-world maintenance knowledge that keeps your Honda running and keeps money in your pocket.
Myth 7. Running your Honda to empty doesn't hurt anything.
Here's what most people don't know about their fuel system. The electric fuel pump in your Honda sits submerged inside the tank, and it relies on the surrounding gasoline for both cooling and lubrication. When you routinely run the tank down to the low fuel warning light, that pump gets exposed to air, runs significantly hotter, and takes on premature thermal stress with every trip. One emergency on-fumes run won't destroy it. Making a habit of it absolutely shortens its operational life, and the failure tends to happen without warning, usually somewhere inconvenient. On top of that, as a fuel tank ages, trace sediment and condensation settle at the very bottom, running consistently near empty pulls from that sediment layer and increases the thermal load on the pump assembly. On a modern 5th-generation CR-V or a current Pilot, fuel pump replacement runs between $1,200 and $1,700 all in at a dealership. That is a completely self-inflicted repair if you're the person who plays chicken with the fuel gauge every week. Keep at least a quarter tank as a habit. It costs you nothing and protects a component that costs a great deal to replace.
Myth 6. Honda manuals always get better mileage than automatics.
Decades ago, a manual Honda was the undisputed king of fuel efficiency over a sloppy 3-speed or 4-speed automatic. That dynamic has completely reversed. Today's Honda CVTs and the 9 and 10-speed automatics Honda uses in larger vehicles like the Pilot and Ridgeline leave manual shifters behind in real-world fuel economy. The CVT continuously adjusts its drive-pulley ratio on the fly, keeping the engine at its optimal efficiency point regardless of road speed. Under a light load on the highway, the engine is loafing along at low RPM, burning as little fuel as physically possible. EPA ratings on modern Hondas back this up. CVT-equipped Civics and Accords consistently post higher fuel economy figures than their 6-speed manual counterparts, often by 2 to 3 miles per gallon in combined ratings. The CVT advantage is strongest in city and mixed driving, exactly the conditions most Honda owners actually experience day to day. Unless you're driving a classic 1990 Civic hatchback or an S2000, that stick shift is not saving you money at the pump. It's just giving your left leg a workout. 4 myths down, 4 to go. And the next ones are where I see the most money wasted. Subscribe to Honda Decoded so you don't miss a breakdown.
Myth 5. You must warm up your Honda for 10 minutes in winter.
Unless you're driving a vintage Honda N600 with a carburetor under the hood, idling your car for 10 minutes on a cold morning does nothing except burn fuel and accelerate engine wear. Modern PGM FI Hondas need about 30 seconds of idling after a cold start to establish complete oil pressure throughout the engine. After that, the fastest and most effective way to warm up the engine, the transmission, and the catalytic converter is to simply drive gently. The engine reaches operating temperature significantly faster under a light load than it does sitting in your driveway. Extended cold idling is actively harmful to modern Earth Dreams engines. When the engine idles cold, the ECU commands a richer fuel mixture. Excess unburned fuel washes down cold cylinder walls, thinning the protective layer of 0W20 or 0W16 engine oil and accelerating piston ring wear over time. On the 1.5-liter turbocharged L15B7 models found in the 2017 and later CR-V, Civic, and Accord, extended cold idling is a documented contributor to the oil dilution issue, where gasoline mixes into the crankcase oil, raises the oil level on the dipstick, and reduces the oil's ability to protect bearings. 30 seconds, then drive gently. That's the correct warm-up procedure for any modern Honda.
Myth 4. Coasting downhill in neutral saves fuel.
Shifting into neutral on a long downhill run feels like a clever trick for squeezing out extra miles. It is the opposite of clever. It uses more fuel and removes a critical safety margin at the same time. Modern Honda ECUs use a protocol called deceleration fuel cutoff, or DFSCO. When your foot is completely off the throttle and the transmission is in drive, the rolling wheels are mechanically driving the engine through the drivetrain. The ECU recognizes this state and shuts the fuel injectors completely off. Zero fuel consumed while coasting in gear. Pop it into neutral, and the engine is mechanically disconnected from the driven wheels. To prevent a stall, the PGM-FI system has to continuously inject fuel to maintain idle speed. You go from burning absolutely nothing to burning idle fuel for the entire length of the downhill run. On a long mountain descent that adds up. On top of the fuel penalty, neutral coasting removes engine braking entirely, reducing your ability to control vehicle speed in an emergency. Stay in drive and let Honda's ECU do exactly what it was engineered to do. 2 myths left, and myth number 1 is the one that costs Honda owners the most money at the pump and in the shop. Subscribe so you catch every Honda Decoded episode.
Myth 3. E10 ethanol gasoline destroys modern Hondas.
Plenty of old-school mechanics will tell you ethanol is nothing but corn juice that rots fuel lines and kills efficiency. While it's true that ethanol contains less energy density per gallon than pure gasoline, meaning a slight measurable reduction in MPG, that does not make E10 fuel destructive to a modern Honda. Every Honda manufactured over the last several decades comes from the factory with ethanol-compatible fuel lines, synthetic seals, hardened valve seats, delivery systems calibrated to run safely on E10 fuel containing up to 10% ethanol. Honda designed these engines knowing exactly what fuel would be in every pump across North America. Ethanol also carries a high octane rating, which provides knock resistance in modern high compression and turbocharged Honda engines. That's actually a benefit. The one scenario where ethanol causes real problems is when E10 sits stagnant in an undriven vehicle for 6 months or more. In that case, moisture absorption can cause phase separation, where the ethanol and gasoline separate in the tank. But that's a storage problem. not a fuel problem. If you're driving your Honda regularly, standard pump E10 will not damage it. Blaming ethanol for problems caused by neglected maintenance is one of the most common misdiagnoses I see. Walk through the shop door.
Myth 2. You should change Honda engine oil every 3,000 miles.
The 3,000-mile oil change interval is the zombie myth of automotive maintenance. It simply refuses to die because quick lube chains built their entire business model around getting you back through the door every 8 weeks. Modern Hondas running full synthetic 0W20 or 0W16 are equipped with Honda's maintenance minder system, which calculates oil life based on actual engine revolutions, operating temperatures, and driving cycle data. Under normal conditions, the system typically calls for service somewhere between 7,500 and 10,000 miles. Honda engineered that interval. Honda stands behind it. Full synthetic oil formulations do not break down or shear within 3,000 miles of normal use. Changing clean, fully functional synthetic oil at 3,000 miles provides zero measurable engine protection benefit over following the maintenance minder cycle. I've pulled the oil from high-mileage Hondas maintained exclusively on the maintenance minder schedule, and it looks exactly as it should. You are simply pouring money down the drain every time you go early and generating unnecessary waste oil in the process. Trust the maintenance minder. It was designed by the same engineers who built the engine. That is the only oil change schedule your Honda needs.
Myth 1. Premium gas cleans dirty injectors and fixes a check engine light.
This is the grandfather of all Honda fuel myths, and it costs owners real money every single day. Premium gas will not fix your check engine light. It will not clean dirty direct injectors or port injectors. It will not cure a rough idle on a Honda that was designed for regular fuel. I watch this play out on a near-weekly basis. Civic starts running slightly rough. Owner buys a tank of 93 octane, convinced it has special cleaning powers or higher detergent level. Then another tank. Then another. Meanwhile, the actual problem, failing ignition coil, a worn spark plug, dirty mass airflow sensor, is sitting there undiagnosed and getting worse. Here is the fact. Top-tier detergent standards apply equally across all octane grades at any certified top-tier station. The 87 regular grade has the exact same concentration of cleaning additives as the 93 premium grade. The only difference between the two is resistance to pre-ignition under high cylinder pressure. Premium fuel is not medicine. It is not a diagnostic tool. If your Honda is misfiring or showing a check engine light, spend that money on a proper OBD2 scan. A $20 code reader at the auto parts store will tell you more about what's wrong with your engine than $100 worth of premium gas ever will. Diagnose first. Always. Honest disclosure. Everything covered here is based on patterns I've documented over 25 years of working on Hondas, confirmed cases in my shop, technical service bulletins, and publicly available manufacturer specifications. Every vehicle has its own history and individual condition, and real-world results will vary. If your Honda is misfiring, running rough, displaying warning lights, or showing symptoms that go beyond a straightforward maintenance fix, get a proper diagnosis from a trusted independent shop or a Honda dealership before spending money on parts. Don't guess on a running engine. A correct diagnosis is always the cheapest first step. 8 myths, all of them with a real dollar cost attached. The truth about fuel is almost always simpler and cheaper than what circulates in parking lots and online forums. Use the octane your owner's manual specifies. Buy top-tier fuel. Stop at the first click of the pump. Drive gently after a cold start instead of idling. Trust your maintenance minder. None of these things cost you extra. They just stop you from spending money you never needed to spend in the first place. Drop your Honda model, your engine code, and your current mileage in the comments below. And tell me which one of these myths you've been following for years without realizing it. I read every single one. If this breakdown saved you money today, subscribe to Honda Decoded. We cover the real issues real Honda owners deal with, based on what actually comes through a shop door.